Hi everyone, thanks for tuning into my channel, Huub Hildenbrand Guitar Academia. Today we have another lesson on Indian concepts of the North Indian classical tradition primarily. And this is about Todd, the concept of Todd. And down in the description below you find a link to a PDF file where you see all that what we are talking today, and that's really necessary to really fully grasp this lesson or to get the full package. So please download that, and also that helps supporting my channel, of course. So what is Todd? Todd is actually a system of like a systematic approach to categorize all the different scales or all the different rags which are possible in North Indian classical music. And in North Indian or like Indian classical music is melodic. Yeah, you don't have like these kind of chords and everything. So it's really scale. In a way, it's scale based, and the root is never changing. And with these kind of restrictions, actually, other elements of music are really developed to a very high degree. And that is also like the different scale constructions. Yeah, if you just take the scale, the pure notes which are happening in a raga, then there are actually a lot of different scales. To really get the full concept of raga, of course, you have to also see the other lessons on raga music, which I already published or which I will publish soon, to really get this idea. Because a raga is not only a scale, of course. It has a lot of different features which you have to consider when you want to play a certain raga. But we in this approach here on this Guitar Academia, we really take we isolate these different topics. So we only thinking about scale now. The problem is, or the difficulty in Indian classical music, you can say, to get to a kind of a limited group of scales, or like frameworks of scales. To solve that, you really have to reduce, because there are so many possible scales. And also what also adds to that is that a lot of scales also use different notes when they move up and when they move down, for example, or certain ragas are actually combinations already of two or more, even other ragas. So it's like I would say it's almost in a way impossible to find really a really systematic approach to that, which really covers all the possible scales. And there were a lot of attempts made during history, but today this concept of the 10 Todds is really accepted of most of the musicians. And the idea is really to find like the basic scales like 10 basic scales where you can relate all other possible variations and all other possible scales which happen in North Indian classical music, which you can relate them to. So for example, you have ragas which move different notes up and different notes down. Then you decide for a certain one, like the upward movement or the downward movement. What is really the characteristic or the basic or more, what is the foundation of I mean the basis, yeah, the most prominent sound in that rag. And then you decide for that one scale of these 10. And these 10 tats, they all have names, yeah, like Bilaval, like Tori, and Ashwari, and Kalyan. I have them here, and Khammaj, Kafi, and so on. And these are just like 7-note scales. And that tat, like one of these scales, are always something you pick when you want to explain a certain raga. Yeah, because that already gives you a lot of information, actually. So when somebody says, okay, this is like maybe Desh. I'm not really sure whether it's true for Desh, but let's assume that here. I say, oh, it's Desh, and it's Khammaj tat. As I said, I'm not really sure whether that's true, but Khammaj tat is actually like Mixolydian. Yeah, it equals our when you take these church modes, it's like the Mixolydian scale, and Desh very prominently show this minor sevenths in a major scale context. So it very frequently uses the major sevenths in an upward motion movement, and then then you can say like a very characteristic feature is this minor sevenths, which you show very, very frequently, of course. So you can say this rag is the tat of that rag is Khammaj, and that gives you a general kind of an idea that can also, you can also say, okay, that belongs to the Khammaj tat family, for example. So this gives you a kind of a way to group this vast repertoire of ragas. There are like hundreds, 500, maybe more ragas. So it's a kind of a systematic approach to find to reduce the all rags which are possible, which are played in actual music, to reduce them to fewer families or groups, and so these 10 tats are actually like 10 like shelves in a like a cupboard. So that belongs there. That belongs there. That doesn't mean that it has only these features, but it's more or less fitting there. That's more the concept, actually. And there are also some 7-note ragas possible, which do not fit into one of these 10 tats, because they use other notes. But then you still say, okay, that belongs to that tat, but of course it has these notes. So it's not these 10 tats. When you download them here from Guitar Academia, the PDF, then you see these 10 scales. But these are not all the possible scales. There are much more. Okay, so we have these 10 tats, and when you see this PDF, also you have assigned some alternate names, and I just added them. For example, like Khammaj equals Mixolydian. Yeah, so it's in brackets. I write Mixolydian, and I also there like Bayraf, for example, equals the Basit Makam Sürgülü Hicaz, for example. So from Turkish music. So I also assign that name there because this scale like bara bina da na ti da sani da pa ma ga re sa. Yeah, that's not a scale typically used in Western music, yeah. But it's very frequent, very normal and frequently used in Indian classical music and also in Turkish classical music. So. Okay, there's also like an 11th start. Some people say there's this 11th start. This is like harmonic minor, Kirvani. Yeah, and as I said, this you have to know this concept, and you have to at least find a place where you find all these 10 scales when you are busy with Indian classical music, because that you always hear about that when you learn a certain raga. You hear, okay, that's the tat. What's the tat of this raga? Okay, it's bilaval. All right, so it's like a major scale, for example, in this case. Is that true? Yeah, sure. All right. In the South Indian tradition, we have actually like a completely different approach, a different systematic thing. We have this Melakarta idea, and that is like more a mathematical thing to list all the possibilities in a certain kind of a restriction, and they come up with 72 different scales, where some scales are really weird for Westerners, and really like it's a lot of like chromatic also happening in a lot of scales. But of course, you also with this mathematical system, you also reach the normal scale. So it's like everything is there, and in South Indian, when you hear like South Indian classical music, it's also like there are different scales used, and you hear that. I mean, you have a different sound and different. It's more. I mean, I think it's a bit more far from Western music than the North Indian classical music, and of course in the history, I don't know, maybe I also make a lesson on that, but just to understand why it's so different. It's because there were all these Muslim rulers who ruled North India for maybe more than 500. I'm not actually sure. As I said, I'm not an historian, so I can be wrong. But a long time, like hundreds of years, they ruled North India, and they had all these employed all these Kurd musicians who had to convert from Hinduism to Islam to really work there, and they really supported music very much, and in these Kurd situations, they these two traditions, like Oriental, like Persian and Ottoman, Turkish classical music, these traditions really came together with actually the original classical Indian music, which I think was not different than what we have now in the South, because that in a way this tradition did not really change much. I mean, I just when I hear South Indian music, I feel it's more distant from what really feels what I can understand in a way. It's more, yeah, it's like Chinese opera, for example. I mean, that's a huge difference, of course, but there are there are some musical cultures which are so, yeah, so very very different in a way, and maybe also because maybe there was some isolation, and they could really develop in a certain way, and really get deeper and deeper and deeper and more complex in a certain kind of a way that they also, when you come from a different musical cultures, you at a certain point you don't get it anymore. You know, it's so complicated, so foreign, and that's very often with classical music, like from all cultures. They really move into very different directions, and they're really very sophisticated to a very high degree. Whereas when you have like folk music, also from China or also South Indian, I'm pretty sure. I'm not really such an expert in South Indian folk music, but I'm thinking I think that's I, at least me, I could really connect more to that than to the South Indian classical tradition. Although, of course, I like that music. I mean, there are some players and singers in the South Indian tradition, of course. But I'm more maybe to this to the more darker sound, more to the slower movement and movements, and this connection to this to the Makam music. Gives me really some depth. What I enjoy very very much. I feel really very much connected to that, actually. Yeah, it's also when you play like a North Indian scale, you know, just up and down, you understand them better. I mean, of course, there are some scales which you do not really understand, because they are not meant to just play up and down the same way. Then they sound really strange sometimes. You think, what is happening here? And as soon as you learn what you actually have to do with that scale, what is allowed and what is not allowed, and what you have to feature in that scale, and which notes you have to really show very much, and which you have to kind of leave out, or just just play very briefly, then you understand, okay, that's the way it's working. And then you really, I understand that very quick. I really feel it's I can connect to that. Whereas when I play these the South Indian scales, you know, like these 72 scales, it's really like, what is this? I don't get it. It's so chromatic, and then you have these huge leaps suddenly, and it's very hard to understand. Although when I hear this music, it's I can connect to that, but not as much as a North Indian classical music. But of course, that's maybe about taste, or what's your path in life. But I'm really thinking about these things, because normally, or also in that case, I think, okay, maybe I did not really get it. I don't understand that. I don't know what to listen for. I'm not really so much into that to really appreciate that. And that's I think that's with all these great musical cultures of the planet. That's like when you don't like something, it's mostly because you don't understand it. And once you go into that and you really start to understand it, it's like with abstract art, for example. You know, you see a picture and then you think, what is this? I mean, a child could do that. But then you understand more and more about proportions, about certain colors, about what the artist wants to express, and like also free jazz. You know, it was at a certain time in history, and when you know that and you understand this, the music in the context of the whole culture of the whole time period at that time in that culture, then you can. Then it's very likely that you really can connect to that. So these are some questions here, which I ask myself, of course, why I don't like this music too much, and why I mean, if I like another music very much, I think, okay, I understood it to some degree. I mean, that's, yeah, so if I really like something, I mean, it's much easier to learn something, because yeah, you are already connected. Anyway, I talk a lot today. I don't know whether that's really interesting for you. So just to sum up this lesson, go down in the description below, download the PDF, support this channel, and there you have all the 10, or in this case 11 Todds, and just play around with them, you know, for now. I mean, just take it as it's just a scale, and just explore them a bit. I think that's maybe a good exercise to do. And then later, next lessons, we will go more into the different concepts and ways how actually a scale will become a raga. All right, so that's it for that lesson. You can also donate to support my channel. Just also click down the description below on the link to my website. There is a button where you can donate. And yeah, that's it for today. Thanks for watching. My name is Huub Hildenbrand.